Hello guys, welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're in a new location. So if you're watching this, rather than listening, hey, something new to look at. And as you can see, we have the sun harnessed behind us.
The sun.
It's a pretty bright glow.
Sun.
It's kind of hardcore.
But today, we're back with another anime podcast with the regular crew. Aiden could not join us, Jaden could not join us. So, it's just us. But we will be talking about protagonists in anime and what makes a good protagonist, what makes a lesser protagonist, etc., etc. So, that's what we're going to talk about today. We have a list of quite a few names for some protagonists that we enjoy or that we think that would be good to talk about.
I was just going to say something. We didn't really talk about this before we started recording, but there's like different kinds of protagonists, and I think we can recognize that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Quinn kind of said something along those lines where there's like the proactive protagonist and then the reactive, and then also you could break that down even more
into different other categories. Because are we going down the list that we've got?
There's also the protagonist that changes, and then there's the protagonist that changes others.
Yeah. Because,
for example, we didn't write this name down, but I want to talk about him. And it's Aang from Avatar. Because a lot of other shows... No, not Aang. What the fluff?
Well, unless it's the live action...
We don't talk about that.
No.
That doesn't exist. We got that instead of a season 4, and I'm pissed.
Yeah. Freaking M. Night Shyamalan.
He wants to do stuff, and we can't let him. Anyway.
Bad.
We're getting a live-action adaptation to
Netflix,
which looks
not great.
Of what?
horrible. Of Avatar.
Yeah, have you not seen that?
Another one?
Yeah.
No, not
like
a movie.
The series.
A series.
Not a movie.
Not a movie.
Not a movie.
Like a
TV show.
Why?
Thank you.
No, yeah, that's what everyone's asking.
Everyone's like, just give us season 4. Shut up and give us season 4.
Bring back all the same voice actors. I don't care if Uncle Iroh died. Resurrect him.
Resurrect him, bring him back. I doubt he died.
I mean...
It's not that old.
I guess it depends on how old the voice actor was to begin with.
Yeah. If he was like 80, maybe.
That's what I'm saying.
He did die.
The last season came out 10 years ago. It's been a little bit.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Did he die? Do you know?
Well, he died in the middle of the show, and they had to get a new voice actor
What?
for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, just use the second one.
Yes, that. How did I know that?
Oh, I heard it. I just didn't
In the Tales of Ba Sing Se, it says in loving honor of Mako.
Yes!
That's the voice actor for Iroh.
Gotcha.
We got off on a tangent.
Yeah, we
not
did.
talking about.
Welcome back to the show. This is what it's like. In case you forgot.
Best show ever. Not talking about protagonists. We're talking about Avatar.
We already did an episode on that. We can come back to that. But you want to turn off that sound?
Sure. Now we can keep up the R2 sounds.
That was not R2. I don't even know what that was. But no, what I wanted to talk about with Aang and Avatar is that he is very much so one of those characters that changes others but doesn't necessarily change himself. Because if you look at the show, the amount of impact Aang himself has on several other characters, while it may not be as much as Iroh, it's very close to as much as Iroh.
It's significant.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing to take away. Like, I think one that you see a lot that has a lot of influence on other people, but has a lot of influence on himself, or like changes a lot himself, is Natsuki Subaru. Right?
Yeah.
From ReZero. So, yeah, we'll talk more about that, but I think we're just going to go down the list of protagonists that we currently have and kind of go through what they are and what they do. And then we'll go back into the groupings individually.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure.
We're going to group them.
Go for it.
And then we're going to go back into the groups and say, like, what each protagonist does. Okay. So, Kirito. Obviously, we got to start with Kirito from SAO.
Have to, but we did.
He was the first one on the list. That's why he's there. But
proactive or reactive?
No. What, are we gonna read them off all and then dissect them?
About?
No. Right now we're just gonna say proactive, reactive.
Oh, okay.
And do they change, or do they change others?
He doesn't change. He's a boss to begin with.
No, you're right. Absolutely.
So he goes and saves maidens.
Does he change other people?
Kinda.
He lets other people.
I mean, what's her
fall in
butt
love
hate
with
him at the
him,
beginning, and then she fell in love with him. So.
Oh yeah.
Forget what's her name. Help me.
Asuna?
Yeah, her.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, they all fell in love with him. That's
Basically.
the point.
I also think he is very reactive rather than proactive protagonist.
Yeah. Like, situations present themselves to him, and he's like,
dope, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's not like a go. Yeah, and like that even in his way of like clearing the levels is not. He's not like going out of his way. He's like, oh, you guys need help? Fine, I'll go help you out. And then he goes off and does.
He doesn't even make his own guild.
No, which he absolutely could have, but
that's one thing that I like
Whatever.
that they mentioned in the abridged series is they're like, why didn't you just make your own guild? You could have cleared all of the floors by now had you just done that. You were capable enough to do so.
yeah.
And he's just like, I didn't really want to.
I think it'd be a fun anime if it was him and Klein building a guild, getting more friends, getting powerful.
I
mean,
would also agree with that. I think that
Yeah.
that would have been... The thing is, we got a very different SAO from what we were promised in the first episode.
Seriously?
And that's,
Oh
I
my
think,
gosh.
where a lot of people have their hate towards the show.
Yeah. And especially when like the game is clear, like 12 episodes in, you're like, wait, the whole show was the game. What happens now?
Yeah.
And it just gets weird and dumb.
And we don't talk about that.
Onward
Yeah.
and forward.
So we're moving on.
So next up, we have Ruby from Ruby. Well, Ruby Rose from Ruby.
Okay.
You know the most about this.
Well, yeah. But,
Well,
We're gonna defer to the Ruby expert on this one.
well, Ruby, let's see.
He's wearing his Ruby shirt today. I mean, like,
I am
It's a
wearing
crow
a crow shirt.
but I mean,
But it's from Ruby, yeah,
yes.
you're right.
Because Crow's the best character and everyone knows it.
Yes.
But Ruby, let's see, would I classify her as proactive?
yeah,
Yeah.
Especially in the later seasons.
Especially in the later seasons, she's like, we need to go out and we need to do this and
And even like when
fix that and beat this person.
when her other team members are being done, like she's going out and like, guys, let's go help this person because they're struggling.
Mm.
Yeah. And she does change, but not much. But she changes others more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It was really like her team that she changes the most, and Jean.
Yeah,
She gives a pep talk too.
at least a few times.
Yeah, good stuff.
Alright, moving on.
Yes,
Goku.
Goku.
you guys know Dragon Ball way better than I do.
Reactive. Nothing.
No change.
He
No
Static.
change. Doesn't... I mean, technically he changes
He
others.
changes others, and he's reactive.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna fight these trees. Like, he just, like, throws punches in the air, he does a lot of push-ups, and he waits for someone to attack the earth. And then somebody attacks the earth,
and then he reacts, and
then he
whoops
goes
their
and
butts.
beats them.
Yeah.
And that's
The
Most
show.
of the time.
If you go back to the original Dragon Ball series, he's proactive, and he's a fun
Yes.
character.
He actually like,
That is
He's still-
progresses.
He's still, like, he's always same, unchanging, changes others, helps people become better people.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
But because he's always been the same Goku since he was like
Yeah.
since he was the day he was born.
Yeah. He's pretty simple.
Yeah, he's a simple character.
It's not inherently bad. But he's pretty simple. So, moving on, is Naofumi
Now Fumi.
from Shield Hero.
Watch this one now.
He hasn't watched this one, so he's missing out on just the best protagonist.
It's like 3 from the top of my list. It's soon, okay?
It's there, guys. Chill.
We'll get to it.
I mean, Naofumi, within the first episode, makes you fall in love with him.
That good.
But I would say that he's later on, he becomes more proactive. At first, he has to be reactive to what's happening to him because it's an isekai.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of isekai protagonists start out being reactive because it's a new environment. But Naofumi definitely becomes a proactive protagonist.
Yes.
Someone who actually goes out and does stuff.
And he has to change right from the get-go.
Yeah.
He changes the entire, like, how he acts and who he is because
Which is so cool to
he
see.
has to survive. It's bad. Poor guy. I love him.
Such a...
He's such a
Just
good
like episode
example.
2.
Yeah.
He's so good. You're just like, wow, he's just like F you all.
Yeah, he does.
And I was gonna say, in a minute, we're gonna talk about a character who's not that isekai protagonist. That's all.
Naruto?
No.
Oh. Naruto's next.
Also an isekai, but
Oh, also an isekai, but not an isekai.
not that kind of protagonist.
Ah, okay. Anyway, next we have Naruto from Naruto and Boruto's dad, Shippuden.
Oh my gosh. It's a terrible joke. Oh, jeez. And they make
You know, there's show Boruto's dad. They should make a show about him.
Dude, I think they did. It's called Boruto's Dad.
And Boruto's dad, Shippuden.
And Boruto's dad, Shippuden.
I love that. It's so
Terrible. So
Um,
he definitely changes a lot.
He does.
Because
yeah.
he goes from this whiny ass kid at the beginning of the show to like someone who's actually semi-competent at fighting.
Yes.
And then throughout Shippuden, he grows exponentially more.
Yes.
Yes, he does.
To the point where, you know, you actually believe that he's gonna, you know, become the Hokage. You're
And-
like, oh.
And while he technically does change a lot of characters, he is not the main catalyst for
mostly
change.
himself. That he
It's
changes.
mostly himself that he changes, right? I think Gaara, he changes a little bit.
Yeah, he does.
And
Rock
Rock Lee and Sasuke,
Sasuke, yeah.
obviously.
Obviously,
But
yeah.
then, like, all of the others have other catalysts for change. Oh, and Hinata,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
obviously.
Obviously, good stuff.
But in terms of actual, like, being the main catalyst for change, or being, like, the catalyst for major change, he never seems to be that.
Well,
Other than
mostly
for Gaara.
because, like, those catalysts are, like, bigger problems that come from
Exactly.
the outside and we're like, oh,
Exactly. That's why
Orochimaru was
it's,
going to destroy the Leaf Village. Let's prevent that.
yeah, and that's why it's like, while he does change other people, I think that's just because of him being the protagonist.
Yeah. Well, which is not necessarily
And
a
also
bad thing.
containing the nine-tailed fox and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he definitely changes himself a lot. That being said, I also think him to be more of a reactive character, along the same lines of like Goku.
Yeah.
While he does want to be Hokage, and he does work hard to be that, a lot of the main conflict is coming from other people interacting with the Leaf Village or the Sand Village or what
Yeah,
have you.
and it's a lot of he's a kid in the first part, and it's
Which
like
there's not a lot he
can't
can do.
be very proactive because it's always adults telling him what to do.
Exactly.
And then even afterwards in Shippuden, it's like, here's your mission, go. And he's like, cool.
Dope.
And like he
Dope.
crushes it. He's way better than he used to
Yeah.
be, but still.
But that, yeah, it's very
And
reactive.
this is where, like, in Boruto, he's definitely more of a proactive character, being Hokage.
Being dad.
But
Boruto's dad.
yes, Boruto's dad. But in his own show, where he is the protagonist, he can't actually be a proactive character in most situations. Obviously,
Yeah.
he does take things into his own hands at times.
And that's just part of like the structure of the ninja way. Like they are subservient to the people, really.
The higher ups,
Like,
and so on.
They do missions for the
Yeah.
people.
They do.
Anyway, moving on.
Moving on, we have Natsuki Subaru from ReZero.
One of my favorite protagonists ever. And I love his reaction.
V for victory!
Victory! No, I I love his reaction when he got put into the new world. First of all, he transported into a new world in the best way I've ever seen possible. He blinks, and he's just there.
He blinks and he's there.
And he's like,
yeah!
He's so excited about
That...
it. And then afterwards...
And the thing, it takes him like 2 seconds. He's like, oh, this is an isekai. He's like, sweet. I'm in another world. Alright, let's figure this out.
And he reminds me of Cosmo, how he thinks that he's going to be the best. I'm the protagonist of this story. I'm going to be so strong.
It's okay, I'm the protagonist. I can't
holy sword, whatever. And then he just gets his butt kicked.
Repeatedly. Is suffering plot? Does suffering count as plot?
Does suffering count as plot? Yes.
Because there's a lot of that.
It's hard to watch how much he suffers. It literally hurts.
It does.
And
there's an entire episode where he just suffers and you're just like,
there's a couple points where you're like, you just feel sorry for him. You're like, dude, this sucks. Like,
yeah, and he's very proactive. He's always trying to fix whatever problem is happening, and he always suffers because of it.
And I mentioned this earlier, but he is one that changes a lot himself, but also changes a lot of other people. And I would say that he changes more...
like a Venn diagram. He's the middle.
Yes.
He's both.
He's right there in it.
I would say that he changes more people than he changes himself. Because if you notice, like, the entire first arc is him just being... like, up until he gets his butt handed to him by the other, like, knight.
Yeah.
It's basically him just being stubborn. And like, no, this is how things go. This is like I'm
the protagonist.
I will help
this
Amelia,
pretty lady, do the thing that she wants to do.
She will fall in love with me, kind of thing. And then he gets his butt handed to him, and he's like, "Wait!"
And he has to
I need to be smarter.
Reassess his entire existence.
It's not right after that. It's actually like when he gets a verbal beatdown by one of the princesses or.
Amelia.
It's shortly thereafter.
No. It's
so sad
when the cat lady.
Was it?
Or the one with the cat children.
Yeah, but when Amelia yells at him, he's so
got, like,
sad.
purple hair.
It hurts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
What do you mean I don't know what you're talking about?
I said you do know.
Okay. We're good.
Anyway.
Yeah, he's pretty stubborn up until that point, and then he's like, wait! I can do this differently.
I can change? What? I don't just have to keep banging my face against the wall?
Yeah.
Metaphorically speaking.
But yeah, he definitely has a big impact on others throughout his series. Alright. Kazuma. Domo, Kazuma desu.
Kazuma desu.
Hi, Kazuma desu.
Konosuba. God's blessing on this wonderful world.
Yes.
No one changes at all in that show, and it's what makes it so great. Because everybody's perfect the way they are. Everyone's great to watch. Just
every
the way
character's
they
a
are.
meme.
They don't need to.
They
don't need to change at all.
It's so good.
It's so funny.
Every character is a meme.
But we have to pick up a quest. They all pick out. Let's do this ridiculous one that we'll all die at.
And Cosmo's like, wait!
And he's always the one. He's always the voice of reason.
I would say he is most definitely reactive.
Yeah.
Like as an isekai protagonist.
Yeah.
He is definitely just like, I'll take what you give me. That being said, he's not happy about it.
Roll with the punches. No, he's not happy about it.
Stare.
And they run away. Anyway, it's a lot of references, guys.
Show.
Yeah, we just dropped the bomb of references.
That was 30 straight seconds of just
references.
If you haven't watched the show, I'm sorry, because that was all sorts of stupid and confusing.
It's amazing. It's
good
so
stuff.
funny.
It's so dumb. Just prepare yourself for
It
that.
is by far the funniest show I've watched.
Yeah.
And Isekai Quartet is just beautiful, because
Yeah, for that one,
encapsulates
he doesn't need to
everything.
change anyone because it's not that kind of show.
Yeah.
It's a comedy, and
He's not gonna have that. Like,
He doesn't need to change because
comedy.
it's not that kind of show. It's comedy.
yeah, I'm just gonna leave that blank. Like, he doesn't change. He doesn't change others. He's just Kazuma.
Yep, he's just kind of. It's great.
Stupid.
He has one emotional moment where he's like, "Not my tracksuit," because she was gonna burn it in the freaking fireplace, and he's like, "That's the last thing in my world," and they're like, "Screw you."
In one of the ovas, he does as well. He has an emotional moment in order to get like a collar off. It's confusing, but it's
Okay.
so funny. And then he immediately goes back on his emotional moment, and it's so good.
Sounds about right.
Of course he does.
The sword scalp. Anyway.
References.
Bonk.
Okay, we're gonna move on now. That's
Sorry.
enough of that.
All right, next up, another isekai, but we got Momonga, which I don't know his real. We don't know his. I don't think we ever
do know his,
have been told.
If
his
we
real
do, it's in the very first
character.
episode.
I think they just called him Momonga. Also known as Eins Ulgon.
They almost
Also
never call him
Moan.
Momongo.
Mr.
They always call him Eins Ulgon, Lord Eins.
Well,
I'm
that's
Sama.
because that's what he tells them to call him.
Yeah.
Because it's the name of the guild that he was chief
Yep.
of.
And he became. He basically said, "I am."
The incarnation of the
guild.
guild. Well, because none of the other
And
he
the
came-
dub of it is really good.
and that's like the main plot thing is that he's like looking for other guild members from Yggdrasil.
Yeah.
But mostly it's just him dominating the world he's in. He is very much not reactive. Like, he arrived there, he figured it out, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna just...
Here's the thing.
Okay, I guess
He
that's-
starts out as a proactive character, unlike most other isekai characters.
Mhm.
But his plans are kind of reactive because Demiurge
Yes.
is
That's
so almost manipulative without even noticing it. And it's so interesting because he has to go along with it. Otherwise, he might lose faith from his followers or from, like, the
Floor Guardians,
floor
and
guardians
whatever.
and whatnot.
The maids.
The
Battle
other
maids.
NPCs.
Yeah.
Demir?
Demiurge. The vampire demon dude. Have you not met him yet?
You definitely have.
Red coat, long
He's a floor guardian.
tail.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Demir.
Glasses.
Okay, we got it.
He's one of the floor guardians.
Yes.
Yeah. He takes everything that Lord Ein says as, like,
Scripture.
instructions
Yeah.
to do something. So, I would say that he is overall a proactive protagonist.
With
I would say so too.
some key reactive moments.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where
and
he's
then-
like, do tell them about my plan. And he's like, I have
and
no
then
idea what he's
Demir's
gonna say.
just like, oh yeah, it's obvious, it's just this, and
And he's
just
like,
yep, you figured it out.
totally,
Nailed it on
that's
the head.
exactly what I was
like
thinking.
always, Demir, and he's just like, yep. I mean, only you would be able to come up with something this genius, and he's just like, ah.
Well, and that's the greatest irony of Overlord is there's his inside voice and his outside voice, like what
I
he
love that.
presents to everyone and what is actually going on inside his head.
And normally, what's going on inside his head is just, yeah.
Yep.
And he definitely is a catalyst for change.
This guy
In
is
other
Eins
ways.
Ulgon. And, like, on the inside, he's like this total nerdy kid.
Oh,
He's
absolutely.
like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die.
He's like, I was like an accountant. I don't know how to do any of this stuff.
yeah, he was just like, I was just a salary man.
Help!
I don't know
All right,
what I'd do.
next up, we have one of my personal favorites. I think it's my second favorite protagonist of all time. Sakta from Rascal Does Not Dream of Funny Girl Senpai.
Who's your first?
Naofumi.
Okay.
Come on,
Do
dude.
you like Naofumi that much? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay. I was
moving
like, I
on.
thought he was your first. That's fine.
He was.
No,
I know.
Mai is my first best girl.
Oh, I know that.
But Naofumi took the cake just from like the first 3 episodes.
Wow.
Naofumi is so good.
He is a great character.
Like, yeah, you need to watch the show.
But
He's really good.
Sakura.
Sakata. I always skip that syllable. Sakata is definite. That's weird because he changes a lot himself through helping others to
So
overcome their own. He is,
but in a different way than.
In a different way than like.
No, what's his name? Freaking Subaru.
Yeah,
Natsuki.
in a much different
Different way.
Because it's not that because he wants to help others that he changes. Well, sorry, it is that. I don't know. It's confusing. It is in a different way, but it's also in very similar ways.
He changes.
But I would say he's. I don't know. Is he proactive or reactive?
I'd say he's
Both.
proactive.
I don't know.
I think both.
Because there's a lot of things that happen to him, right? Like, I think about, Kaede and Futaba and things like that.
For me, I
Even
think
Koga.
he's a really strong both on this. Like,
Just
Yeah.
because it's, yeah.
he just
no.
does it.
He does it all
Everything
really
equally.
well. Because it's not like, yes, things happen and he's like responding to those things, but he goes really out of his way to like solve the problems. It's not like it's just does the bare
go
minimum.
very out of his way to help the other people.
Yes,
Especially
Yes.
with, like, the main example I think of when he goes out of his way is with Futaba. He was like, I'm going to put you back in one body because this is weird, but also you need help. Like, yes, he did that for Mai, but he couldn't help entirely. Like, she had to solve it herself. But with Futaba, he was like, look, even if I'm not the one who's going to make it so that you can change, like, ultimately it's your decision, I'm going to do everything that I can to make that happen.
to help you change and grow and become better, a more whole person, literally.
Yeah. And then that being said, he's reactive with things like Koga and Kaede and stuff like that, where it's just like, Koga just needed your help and you went with it, and then she liked you, and oh no. And with Kaede, it's like, oh, my sister just lost her memories because of freaking bullying that I didn't know about, and now, oh my gosh.
Now I don't know what to do.
And now I live in another apartment from my parents with Kaede because of complications.
Yep.
Yeah, so...
But with like Mai, he's like, hey, that's weird. You need some help with that?
yeah, he stumbles upon it.
People can't see you? Like,
But then, like, that
let's
first
see
reaction
how far
turns
out
into
we
him
have to go. And
really
then,
going to like figure out how to help her not disappear.
He literally stays awake
Yeah,
for days on end.
yeah.
Yeah.
We see him go to the convenience store and get like 12 energy drinks. He's like, I'm ready.
And then he stays... And then he embarrasses himself in front of the entire student body.
In the best way possible.
In the best way possible.
Anyway, we could talk about that all day,
Yeah, we could,
and
yeah.
I totally would. But we gotta move on to Light from Death Note.
Oh, man. Very proactive.
The most proactive protagonist I have ever seen.
He tries hard
He really does.
to kill a lot of people.
World
He
domination.
really does.
Like, mega god complex.
I shall be the god of this new world.
It's good stuff.
And I take a chip.
And
I-
eat it! Love that scene. It's
That
so
scene's
good.
amazing. Anyway.
Oh. When I first watched that scene, I didn't even realize how, like, over the top it was. Just in general.
So into it.
Because I was just like, yeah, this makes sense.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you just take a chip
Dominate
and
the
eat
world.
it. Yeah, totally. And then you write a letter down. That seems like it's going to take a long time, though. Like, you're only going to get, like, 5 people killed that way. Like, you're going to eat the entire bag of chips. Freaking fatty. What? That's honestly what I was
Oh
thinking.
my gosh.
Kyle.
Moving on from that scene.
So,
He is absolutely just the
Doesn't
most proactive.
change a ton, though. Like, once
He
figures...
changes a lot of people's lives, though.
No, I agree, absolutely. Like, he ends a lot of people's lives. Oh, jeez.
He himself doesn't change.
Not a ton. Yeah, like once he figures out the Death Note and what it does, he's like, oh, so this is what I'm going to be doing with my life. And that's what he does.
Yeah. Uh-huh. He's just like, I just want to make sure that I can do, like, all the things with the Death Note.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at the same time as he's proactive about, like, going about accomplishing his goals, he's also really intelligent in the way that he reacts to the problems that are presented to him as well.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's just, like, inherently due to his intelligence.
Oh, absolutely.
And the entire nature of the show. Like, you have to roll with the punches. But he also plans things out like crazy.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Many much contingency plans.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's like both Kaicho and Kaguya from Kaguya-sama, just like both of their brains into one person. Both the planning and how good he thinks on his feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's like Light birthed the other two characters into existence.
Except he has no love in his heart.
Except he didn't. But in terms of anime,
Yeah.
they took Light, split his brain in half, and just went, you get this half, you get the other. And it's amazing.
Except they have souls. Like,
They just took the brain.
fair.
Anyway, my metaphors are really weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty weird.
Yeah. Moving on. Satoru.
Yes. Satoru
Fujinuma.
Yes.
From Erased.
Yes. Hey! He's a really good protagonist.
He really is. He's pretty cool. He's up there with, like, Light and Sakta.
And the awesome thing is we get to see him perform these actions as an adult and as a child. As
Which
an
is
8-year-old.
Awesome.
Because
right?
It's all his adult brain, but he knows the limitations of his childhood.
yeah.
And, like,
He
the
doesn't
fact
ever
that he is a child.
He doesn't ever break the bounds of like what would be realistic for an 8-year-old child to do.
He kind of does,
But,
just
like-
by his intelligence and, like, his planning.
Well, yes, like
but in terms of, like,
mentally, but like realistically, what other people are able to see him,
yeah.
there's nothing that would be like, I bet that's an adult in a child's body. No, there's no.
Which is super cool.
It is. And I'd say he's very proactive.
Yes,
absolutely.
That's kind of the whole story.
And
See?
I'd say he changes others a lot.
Yes. Yes.
He saves people's lives.
And they in turn change him.
Less so. But yeah.
What's her name? Irie?
Yeah.
That girl changes him a bit.
From his work. No, or were you thinking
From the
right?
pizza place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That girl changes him a bit.
Yes. And his mom, obviously.
Well, that's his mother. I sure hope
Best girl.
I mean,
All of the female characters in that show are so good.
But no, I was gonna say he is almost the opposite of Light, while still being under the same like banner, right? So he's still a proactive protagonist. He still is like he's the catalyst for change, but in a very different way from Light, who we literally just talked about.
Absolutely.
And it's really interesting to see that, like, we just talked about Light in the same way, and now we're talking about Satoru.
But Light, really, it's like the whole story is based upon the decision that Light makes to try and rule the world with a book. And for him, the entire story is based upon this, like, phenomenon that happens to him.
For Satoru?
Yeah.
Satoru.
Yeah.
Satoru?
Where he goes back in time and...
Specifically, this one big murder mystery that...
So in that way, it's kind of reactive. But other than that, he's like very proactively trying to help people.
Literally save people's lives. The opposite of Light.
The opposite of Light.
That's kind of where I was going.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
Satoru is saving, Light is killing. Yeah. Okay, Soma. Neither one of us has watched the show. It's definitely high on the list.
Food Wars is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Shokugeki no Soma. Soma is our protagonist by far, and he's so good. One of the things that is recognized, I think it's like near the end of the first season or early in the second season, is one of the older guys going to Totsuki, the food academy, basically, recognizes in him that like the reason that so many people don't like him is because the reason he's so good at what he does is because he actually works really, really hard. Like, and what this other students don't like about him is that they could be that good too, but they don't want to admit that they could be because that would require them to put in more effort and to be better. And so, like, that's one of my favorite things about him is like he doesn't.
Sounds like now for me.
Yeah, no, yeah, he has no excuses. Like he doesn't try to cut any corners. Like he's really good, and he recognizes when he's not good. He's like, oh, I failed at this, but I had a great experience learning, and I'm going to make myself better because of what I did poorly.
Mm-hmm.
That just reminded me of like 7 different characters, and I forgot a character. Hold on, sorry.
No, it's fine. We can talk more. But yes, I love him. Love the show. He's like the protagonist that I personally have rooted for the most while watching the show, and I love that.
Okay, what is he? Proactive, changes others, changes himself.
Definitely both. Like, there's a few key characters that he helps grow a lot, but he learns a lot from the other characters too, and grows personally as well.
I was listening to that, and I was like, he sounds like Naofumi and Sakta.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, where it's just like the amount of people that it sounds like he helps, versus also like how much he learns himself. So like Sakta in the first part, and Naofumi in the second.
Yeah, yeah. And then as far as proactive, reactive, he's also both. Like, in the school, there's this thing called the Shokugeki, and it's basically a food cook-off, and like, but they wager stuff. Like, it's high stakes. Like, their best cooking equipment or their best knife. Well, yeah, no, honestly, there's stuff where you're like, oh my gosh. Or, no, like, at one point, he wagers his, like, future as a chef. Like, he's like, if you win, I will stop cooking. Like, I will not pursue a career as a chef. And that's, like, the biggest thing for all of these students. So it's like, money. But he does. And it's like, whoa. But, I don't remember where I was going with that.
He changes others.
Yes.
He changes himself.
Oh, as far as proactive, reactive. Both. Like, he's willing to take any challenge anyone throws at him. And he does really well. But he's also actively seeking to help himself grow and others as well. And he's just super duper awesome.
Cool. Dope. Aang! Okay.
He doesn't change a lot. I mean, he grows, yes.
Let's start with
where are we starting?
Proactivity.
Yes.
Is he proactive? Reactive? It's interesting because I feel like in the first 2 seasons, he feels more reactive.
Absolutely.
Unless he's like going to find like the giant koi fish to ride them.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
Or the air temple. Like stuff that's not macro plot based.
Yeah.
Like, it's just kind of smaller stuff where he's like, hey guys, let's go do this. And you're like, okay, dude.
That's when he's more proactive. But in terms of like actually becoming the Avatar,
fully fledged.
Yeah. He's definitely more reactive.
He kind of avoids it at first.
No, absolutely.
Yes. And I think
super avoids it.
And that's, I think, what makes him a really interesting character to actually follow. While he may not be the most interesting, even within that show, he is still really interesting, and that's one thing that does make Avatar an incredibly entertaining show, is that none of the characters are boring to watch. Sorry.
No,
but
I was just going to be like, never mind.
But
Katara.
I mean, Katara even has like an incredible arc.
I mean, I think he has a pretty good arc, but it's an overarching thing that he never wanted to be the Avatar because he wants to be free to do whatever he wants all the time.
Yeah.
And being the Avatar kind of puts upon him responsibilities that he never
A
wanted.
huge amount. Well, and that's how we came to find him in the iceberg. Was he ran away from his responsibilities? Like
Responsibility. What's
like the Air Temple elders were like, "So, you're the Avatar," and he's like,
You leave tomorrow.
Yeah, and so it's very much for him a boy growing up kind of story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, I would say that while he is a great protagonist, he is definitely a more reactive protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And he himself changes, but not super a lot and over a long amount of time, and he changes others up more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes is when he says to Zuko, I think in a time where there wasn't a war, me and you could have been friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man. It's one of the best scenes.
That's in the first season.
Yeah,
That's
that's
in the
really
first season.
early on, where
Which
like
is
there's still
super
definitely super enemies, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But it's also like definitely foreshadowing because they
Like
become
foreshadowing very
for
far
2
in the
seasons from the
future.
yeah 30
For,
episodes
like-
out.
Literally 2 seasons later,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
almost to the episode. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's episode like 13 in season 1. No, it's like episode 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
Is
it that early?
It's pretty early, yeah. Like, it happens pretty early. I remember because I was like, wait, this is a single-digit episode? Yeah.
Okay.
I may be wrong.
The Blue Spirit,
Yeah.
is that in season 1?
It is.
It is in season 1.
It's in season... It's very, very early. It's like before he even...
I think that's like episode 8.
Yeah, 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Or 7, 8, or 9. One of those. But I was just like, wow, this is super early for this.
Yeah, when you go back and rewatch some of that stuff, you're like, whoa.
You're like, this happened
foreshadowing
so
is ridiculous.
early.
They're good at this. They're really good writers.
Yeah. Okay. Next, last one on the list is Mob from Mob Psycho 100 because he's a really good protagonist. Like, the entire second season is basically just him being like, yeah, I'm just going to make sure that everyone changes for the better.
Yeah, he doesn't change.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
He doesn't really change.
He doesn't really change a lot. No.
Probably because he's kind of the symbol of everything that a young man could, every great thing a young man could be. He's just so cute and innocent and just like nice to everyone, and he's a very kind person and he doesn't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
And so when bad guys want to hurt him, he still doesn't want to fight back
Yeah.
until bad guys hurt his little brother. Then you better run.
Or unless they knock him out.
Yes. Don't knock him out. And
Don't knock
hurt
him
his
out and
little
you're
brother.
fine.
Be good. Reagan is best character.
I don't know. I like Ritsu.
The last episode is so good with him though.
I still like Ritsu.
Ritsu's good stuff.
That's his brother. Anyway.
He's the one that actually changes.
Yes. So, he's also more of a reactive character. Yes.
Yeah, he's very much reactive.
Okay. So,
He's
That's
trying
all?
to be normal.
for the list that we have, so we're going to talk about, like, what makes good reactive, good proactive. Okay, so we just talked about and finished the list for our what proactivity versus changes of others, etc.
Yeah.
etc. And now I want to talk about, like, what makes an overall good protagonist, and then have an example of one, as well as what makes a bad one, or like a non-entertaining one. Right.
Okay.
So
Well,
we'll start with the good one.
yeah, I wouldn't say there was like an actual formula for
Right.
there to be a good protagonist. I think he or she should be fun to watch.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
Crap. Because she's good.
We forgot about a bunch.
About a bunch of female protagonists.
There's a bunch
Guys, we suck.
in general.
Yeah. We had enough on the list to take up 45 minutes, so it's fine.
Yeah. They're all dudes, though. Anyway.
Anyway, they should be fun to watch. Whether that be fun to watch because they're terrible people like Light, or fun to watch because they're hysterical like Cosima.
Also terrible person.
Yes.
Or, yeah, for various reasons. They should be entertaining to watch. That's why you're there. And for a reason, I feel like you should care about them in some regard.
Yes.
Or at least care about what they do.
Yeah.
I would say that there is a formula to making a good protagonist. And it's a pretty simple formula, but it's basically the character needs to be the catalyst for change throughout the series. Whether that be they are the ones who incite change, or they are the ones who are changing others, they have to be the reason that they're the protagonist versus someone else, right?
Because without change, there is no plot.
Yep. Exactly. There's no story. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
And they need to be the main reason, because we're following them versus someone else, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we follow Aang, not Zuko. While Zuko may have the better story arc, we're following Aang because he is the reason for the change. He is the Avatar. Fight me. We were talking about this before. That's why I'm bringing it up. So, it's a pretty simple, like, just, they have to be a...
Where's my honor? My honor.
Your scar's on the wrong side. My scar is not on the wrong side.
It's not on the wrong side.
But yeah, they just need to be like the catalyst for change throughout the story. Right? For example, with Naruto, he's the nine-tailed fox. That incites a lot of conflict throughout the series, right? Having the nine-tailed fox suit within him. As well as like... But then he also does help to change others around him as well as himself through the conflict that arises, right? But it's also like, why is it that we would want to watch one of the side characters? Like, for example, you brought this up earlier, but Lucy is technically the main character, or the protagonist, for Fairy Tail, when very clearly she is not.
Well, yeah, she technically is, though.
She technically is.
She narrates the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's told through her eyes.
First episode.
The first episode is all about her joining the guild and meeting Natsu. But honestly, Natsu and other characters get more screen time than her.
Yeah.
And in that sense,
they're better characters.
Yeah. In that sense, I'd say that story doesn't really have like a main character, although it's supposed to be Lucy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say, like, yeah, there's not really a main character or a protagonist with that.
And I feel like that's where Fairy Tail has its fault, that there isn't like a main character, where most people think it's Natsu.
I guess we should have clarified. When we say protagonist, we mean main character. We probably should have said that at the beginning, but
yeah,
they're technically not interchangeable words, but we're using them interchangeably because we're horrible at this.
That's what we're talking about.
Because that's what we're talking about. So yeah. Anyway, Yeah, you had brought that up earlier.
Yeah.
And
That one is interesting.
mm-hmm. Anyway, what do you have to say?
For me, to really like a main character or a protagonist, they need to. I think the main thing is they need to like do stuff. Like they can't just be static. They have to change, and like you said, either they have to change or they have to change other people.
Mm-hmm.
Preferably both.
Which is really interesting because all of us has said like, oh, they have to change other people. They have to be a catalyst for change or something like that. And yet Kazuma literally goes against that and is one of the most entertaining main characters to watch.
Well,
because of that.
The idea of this story is
Yeah.
kind of a serious one.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go to another world. You're going to defeat the Demon King. There's all the generals of the Demon King's army. And one by one, they do actually fight them.
Technically.
And beat them.
Somehow.
And it's because of Kazuma.
Mostly.
That's the idea.
But also,
he's the weakest one. And he's the lead, he leads them, but he is like physically the weakest one. But
absolutely,
he leads them.
He's got good luck.
Yeah, he has good luck.
That's literally.
And he's got good leadership qualities. But
kind of.
Everything is kind of because it's a comedy show.
Yeah.
And what's so funny about it is because it's based off of the normal, very serious isekai.
Well, and see, that's basically what it is. It's a spoof of isekai.
Uh-huh.
I mean, in the same way that One Punch Man, Saitama, it's a spoof of action anime. It's like,
yeah,
because Saitama is like Goku or any of these other big action anime main characters, except he's even more static.
He literally
there is no change.
Doesn't do
at all
anything.
He's completely reactive.
When
Bad guys come and he's like, "You're dead," and you're like, "Oh."
When I first heard the concept of One Punch Man, I thought that sounds like a boring show.
Right?
He
I
beats
thought the same
everybody
thing.
with one punch. That sounds like the most boring show ever.
And then you watch it and you're just like, why is this
And it's amazing.
hilarious and
Yeah.
also has the best action?
I know. But you watch it, and there's so many other characters who get their butts kicked. Like my favorite episode, or couple of episodes, is the what was it? The Fish King guy.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was
The
thinking.
Great
Yeah.
Sea King,
Yeah.
where you see all the other heroes try and fail and
they're
work so
technically
hard.
pro heroes. Like
They're technically pro
Even
heroes.
Genos, which is technically an S rank.
Mhm.
But
hero.
the greatest example of that of all is the bicycle hero.
Oh my god,
Super
Moomin Rider.
Moomin Rider!
Moomin Rider, who tries so hard.
He's so.
I love it. It's so...
And then, and then
Best
Saitama
hero.
shows up and he beats him like that, which you expect.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Which,
he
that
decides-
animation is amazing.
I know,
Like, the
it's so
rain
good.
stopping is just
Yeah.
like,
the rain stops and everything. And then he makes himself out to be a bad guy to give the glory to all the other heroes that got their butts whooped trying so hard.
Yeah, he's like, oh no, they weakened him for me. I just finished him off.
I'm taking all of the credit.
Yeah, which
Which
makes
is so.
which makes him such a good protagonist that he's still a humble person who wants to help others other than being a glory hog,
Yeah.
even when he's the strongest.
Oh, absolutely.
And it made that show very fun to watch, whereas I thought it was going to be really boring.
Yeah. And that's where I had the same idea, but with, like... So, Shield Hero was a very isekai. That sounds really weird, but it did, like... It had basically all the plot points
The tropes.
except for what happened to the protagonist.
Yes.
And that was what made it so interesting. Naofumi as a character is incredibly interesting, and that is an incredibly realistic and in-depth and like relatable character. I look at him and I go, that man would do exactly what I would do in that situation, and he does every time without fail. I'm just like, this man is me in that world.
Yeah.
And it's super cool to watch, especially for me, because I'm just like, I see so much of Naofumi in myself. But it's really cool to see someone truly act human in an isekai rather than trying to be a protagonist.
That's how I feel with Natsuki Subaru.
I don't feel that way because he does feel a little fake. He feels like he's trying to be the hero way too much, whereas Naofumi doesn't. He just feels like he's been thrust.
Yeah.
Like the power and responsibility has been thrust upon him rather than him taking up the mantle.
The way that you've talked about it, again, I haven't seen any of it. It's like if Sakata were to be isekai'd, he'd be like,
oh my gosh, yes, that's exactly it.
Because he's just so pragmatic
in a way,
and like,
yeah.
In a
yeah,
way,
in a
all
way,
that
yeah.
stuff. He's like,
Well, the main thing with Shield Hero, if you haven't seen it, or just to explain it to Tanner, spoilers coming up. Episode
Oh, wait, I need to
2,
explain.
or is it episode 1? The Isekai, he gets transported to another world. He's in episode 1.
It's a long episode.
He becomes, there's like the spear hero, the sword hero, the bow hero, and the shield hero. He's
And
the
nobody
shield hero.
likes the shield hero, and nobody likes the shield class within like the video game that is.
Anyway, point
Based
being,
on
I believe in episode 2, he's
No.
100% framed for, like, rape. Basically. And the entire kingdom shuns him, even though he's the holy warrior summoned to defeat the demons. The bad
waves.
guys. The
As
waves
they call
of
them.
evil. Right? And so, life just becomes super, super difficult for him. Whereas
Because
everything is given to the other heroes, and they're so strong and so inherently they like get by easily.
First of all, the shield class that he is the weakest of all the classes, with like versus sword, spear, and bow. Like he is the weakest inherently, just because of him having the shield. Also, no one likes him. Also, any sexual crime is considered the worst and normally is like punishable by death, I think.
Yeah. But they actually
But
need
they
him to survive.
need him so they don't kill him. And that's like that's like everything you learn within the first episode. Not
Anyway,
everything, but
so when it comes to a girl being fake and a girl totally being an idiot and framing you for that, having been through sort of in a way lower version of that scenario, like, if you don't like me, please kick me in the balls instead. Like, I'd rather that. That's one of the worst things you could ever do to a guy, and I feel for him so much. The poor guy just gets subjected to such terrible things.
do you see why we like Naofumi? Naofumi is pretty good.
Yeah.
And
You still gotta watch it.
he takes it like a man. It's great.
Yeah, that's where it's like. Anyway,
He takes
we've
it
talked
so
about
well.
what makes a good one. Let's quickly talk about what makes a bad protagonist. Like, why do people hate on Kirito so much? Why is he considered bad?
Well, we just
another
talked about
one.
Naofumi, how his story's pretty inspiring.
Mm-hmm. And Kirito's the opposite.
And is Kirito's...
he's kind of a dick.
Yeah, is Kirito's story inspiring? No.
No.
Is it fun to watch?
I mean, most of the time. Sometimes.
When he kicks butt, yeah. If he's
Yeah.
talking to anyone, no.
Exactly. That's, yeah. Fun fight scenes. It's fun to watch him just wreck people.
Yeah.
But
it's
that's
kind of
about it.
it's like Momonga, except more of a dick. Like
he's just kind
he's
of
just
a punk.
more mean, more lame,
Moody.
more of a teenager. You.
He makes just really dumb decisions.
Hey, none of us are teenagers.
Yeah.
Weird.
Why? Anyway, yeah.
And there's supposed to be this whole like romantic drama thing between him and Asuna.
It's
and
terrible.
but it's so
It's kind of forced.
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah.
It feels so one-sided too.
Yeah.
Like he just kind of follows along because
He's like,
that's what he's
sure.
supposed to do. It's what it says in the script.
Yeah.
It really feels forced and kind of just out of place, and that's what most of his actions feel like. It's just like, yeah, he's just kind of there, going along for the ride, right? And yeah, we've talked about it as like reactive and proactive, and most of the time the better protagonists tend to be proactive, but that doesn't inherently mean that a reactive protagonist is inherently bad. Again, we can talk about Kazuma, but also Naruto. Naruto isn't a bad protagonist.
He's a good protagonist.
He's a good one. While still being a reactive protagonist, right? And that's where you can see a different style, right? A different style of writing and a different story to tell, right? You could say the same thing about like Deku or about Goku or about, you know, all these other different characters, especially in shonen and action anime, where they're more reactive, right? Eren from Attack on Titan, pretty reactive, right? The other characters are proactive for him. They tell him what to do, right? All of the commanders, all of like his friends, Mikasa, Armin.
That is a problem inherently in writing in a military-based thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even like any hierarchical structure like that. Like that's why Naruto isn't more proactive, is because he's whatever he is.
A Genin.
Yeah, he sucks. He's the lowest tier of ninja.
Yeah.
For a long time.
For a long time.
He's still getting where I am.
At the beginning of Shippuden.
Yeah, for a while.
I'm a good amount into Shippuden.
Yeah. So
anyway,
but yeah, that doesn't inherently make it bad. It's just more difficult, I would say, to write a strong main character, a strong protagonist, when you have the reactive character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because most of the time that's just like, oh, they have to deal with the situations given them, right? And you could also make the argument that Naruto is a proactive protagonist. We're just saying most of the time they're this way. Whenever we talk about anything, most of the time they're a specific way.
And a protagonist that I hate is Natsuo from Domestic Girlfriend. Where everything he does is like the most stupid, teen, moody, ridiculous, dumb decision I've ever heard in my life.
He makes the worst decisions I think I've ever seen. Just awful.
I'm in love with you, but I'm gonna kiss you, but I'm not gonna love you because I'm in love with her, and it's stupid.
What if I have sex with this person so that I forget about this person? And you're just like, wait.
You're like, don't do it.
Wait. That's not how this works.
Tells one girl that he's in love with her just to turn around and tell a different girl that he's in love with her. You're like,
and
you gotta pull yourself together,
another thing
man.
that makes
and he's always crying about it, and like, you're the one that's making girls cry, man. You gotta stop.
Another thing that makes him not exactly the greatest protagonist, in fact, absolutely worse than Kirito.
Yeah.
Is the fact that he gets everything handed to him without doing anything.
Yeah.
There is no reason for him
to be
loved. He's awful.
Jerk. He's
Like,
an awful person.
Honestly, Domestic Girlfriend has some really good girls that are really entertaining to watch, and some honestly kind of entertaining. It's a kind of entertaining show. It's one that you probably shouldn't watch, but you can, and it's entertaining. That being said, Natsuo is like the worst protagonist, and I watch it. When I was watching the show, I would watch it to see how hard he failed and how stupid he was while still getting away with stuff. And it was so mind-boggling to me. So, yeah. Overall, we have a lot of times characters who are good, proactive, change others. Not always the case, right? I mean, there were only about 2 characters, I think, that we talked about that were overall reactive and proactive, and who changed a lot themselves and who changed others, and that was Soma from Food Wars, and Sakta from Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you guys, it's a really good show.
They're gonna have to
It's
watch
on the list.
Okay.
It's on the list.
It's high on the list.
See, we just got to trade back and forth because that's what Shield Hero is for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
High on the list. Maybe I should finish watching the rest of Shield Hero.
It's still not all the way out.
Oh yeah.
Whatever's in there.
Currently
I haven't
releasing.
gotten all that far, but it's a
Onto
good
episode
show.
18. Episode 19 is coming, but we're at 18.
Okay.
Anyway. So, yeah. Overall, you can have any combination of these things. You can have a character that inherently does nothing and doesn't change and still be really entertaining. Like, you know...
Gosu?
Yes. No, I was going to say... Oh, what's his name? One Punch Man.
Saitama.
Saitama, thank you. I knew it was an S, but I was just like, there are so many S names as main characters. So yeah. It's more difficult to write a reactive character in specific genres, where it's more easy in other genres.
Yeah, that's fair.
And vice versa and the same can be said with the other
Genre by genre.
the other topics.
Categorizations.
There we go. So yeah, it's all due to writing as to what really makes a good protagonist. We could talk about voice acting as well, but that's not really what makes a good one, right? Because, I mean, again, Naruto doesn't really have the best voice acting,
but still a really good
but
protagonist.
it's still a really good protagonist.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's going to be it for this. Do you have anything else to say?
I'm good.
Do you have anything else to say?
No.
Okay. If you guys did indeed enjoy, a like is very much so appreciated. If you guys had anything else to add, if there was a protagonist or a main character or something like that we missed and that you wanted to talk about, just leave it down below in the comments. If you want to stay caught up with this series, just be sure to subscribe so that you know when we're posting. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.
Keep them frosty.
Keep it frosty.